In the US, another round of negotiations on the peace plan is underway. What should we expect? How is the situation on the front changing? And who will be affected by the new sanctions against the Kremlin? We'll talk about this and more in today's summary. It's 7:30 on the clock. Hello, I'm Irina Kondrachuk and you're watching TSN Online. Subscribe to our channel and be sure to comment on what impressed you the most. Let's get started. Last night, the Russians attacked Ukraine with missiles and strike drones. A total of 124 weapons targeted Ukrainian cities. Among them were 122 drones, Shaheds, Gerans, and other types of UAVs, as well as ballistic missiles. Air defense was active all night long. They managed to shoot down or neutralize 104 enemy UAVs, but there were also missile and drone strikes at 13 locations. In 2 more locations, falling debris was recorded. 1 person was killed, and about 20 others were injured, including 4 children. Last night, Russian occupiers attacked the suburbs of Kyiv with drones. Vyshgorod came under targeted attack. As a result of the attacks, a residential building caught fire like a torch. The flames engulfed apartments from the 1st to the 6th floor. Eyewitnesses of this terrorist attack captured the moment of the explosion on video. 18 pieces of equipment and more than 90 rescuers immediately began working at the scene. They evacuated nearly 1,500 residents. At present, everyone who needs it is being given assistance. They are also being offered a place to warm up and a cup of hot tea. In addition to the high-rise, the Russians also destroyed one of the local markets. Work to eliminate the consequences is ongoing, Victoria Ruban, spokesperson for the Kyiv Region State Emergency Service, told TSN.
Rescuers continued their work at the site where the Shahed struck the 9-story residential building in the city of Vyshgorod. All fires that broke out from the 1st to the 6th floor have now been extinguished. Unfortunately, 1 person has died. An operational headquarters has been set up at the moment. A resilience point is operating at the site. State Emergency Service psychologists are providing necessary psychological assistance. Together with Red Cross volunteers, we are working at the scene.
In the forest in the Obolonskyi district of Kyiv, police discovered fragments of a UAV with explosive devices. The area has been cordoned off. Explosive ordnance disposal experts are working at the site. Law enforcement urges residents not to approach any objects you see on the screen under any circumstances. They can detonate at any moment. As a result of the latest combined missile and drone strike on the capital, 2 people were killed. 37 were injured, 15 remain in hospitals. Among them is a child. Within a day, energy workers restored electricity and heating to 500,000 homes. This was reported by DTK. The consequences of the attack were recorded in 7 districts. In total, the enemy launched more than 630 aerial targets last night. These included Shaheds, ballistic, cruise, guided, and aviation missiles. And all of this came in several waves. The attack lasted 10.5 hours. The Russians can carry out similar massive attacks once or twice a week. After all, they produce enough means of destruction for these strikes. This was warned by the head of the communications department of the Air Force Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Yuriy Ignat. President Volodymyr Zelensky reported on social media that just since the beginning of the week, the occupiers have launched nearly 1,400 attack drones, 1,100 guided aerial bombs, and 66 missiles at our peaceful cities and villages. Therefore, Ukraine needs more air defense systems and missiles for them to repel the attacks. And likewise, the head of state emphasized, it is necessary to work actively with partners for the sake of peace. The enemy struck the energy infrastructure in the Sumy region. In the regional center and the Sumy district, there are disruptions with electricity and water supply. 2 people were killed by the Russians in Lyman, Donetsk region. Another 5 civilians in the region were wounded. 3 of them are residents of Kostiantynivka. They were in a civilian car that was attacked by an FPV drone. In Kramatorsk, the occupiers struck the market with Grad rockets. 1 person was injured and about 30 market stalls and an apartment building were damaged. KB bombs were launched at Slovyansk. A person was wounded and there is significant destruction. Kherson is also under fire. In the morning, for an hour, the Russians relentlessly shelled the Dnipro district of the city. 3 civilians were injured, and the day before, a city resident died in the hospital after the attack on the Korabelny district. Over the past day, 7 adults and a teenager were injured in Kherson and Bilozerka as a result of Russian shelling. In the Kharkiv region, 4 people were wounded. In the village of Bashilivka, drones struck a private house. 3 women required medical assistance. In the Kupiansk district, residential homes also became targets for the enemy, and the owner of one of the destroyed houses was injured. And in the village of Borova, an FPV drone hit a postal service vehicle. The people there survived. 2 people were wounded in the Dnipropetrovsk region. After a Shahed strike on the Samsky district, a private house and a car caught fire. A woman was injured. The Sanelnikov district was also attacked by drones. A man was hospitalized in serious condition, and a 2-story apartment building was badly damaged. Infrastructure was damaged in the Pavlograd district. Negotiations on a peace plan have begun in the United States between the Ukrainian and American delegations. The meeting is taking place at a private club in Miami. There are 3 participants from the American side: Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the President's Special Representative Steve Witkoff, and Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner. There are 7 from the Ukrainian side: Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council Rustem Umerov, First Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs Serhiy Kizlytsya, Deputy Head of the Main Intelligence Directorate Vadim Skibitsky, and Chief of the General Staff Andriy Ignatov, Advisor to the Head of the President's Office Oleksandr Bevzy, Head of the Foreign Intelligence Service Ole Ivashchenko, and Ukraine's Ambassador to the USA Olha Stefanishina. At the beginning, the American delegation met with Umerov one-on-one, and later negotiations began in an expanded format. Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, Umerov, thanked the United States for the significant progress achieved over the past 10 months. Secretary of State Rubio said their goal is to build on the progress made in Geneva and throughout the entire week, as well as to achieve an end to the war that would allow Ukraine to be sovereign, independent, and prosperous.
The goal is not only to end the war, which is fundamental. We want to see an end to the killings, deaths, and suffering. And I am sure the Ukrainian side wants this as well. They want peace, but also to ensure an end to the war that will leave Ukraine independent, sovereign, and with opportunities for true prosperity. So it's not just about ending the war, it's about ending the war in a way that creates a mechanism to move forward, allowing them to be independent and sovereign, so that there will never be war again. And it will create tremendous well-being for the people.
We are discussing the future of Ukraine, Ukraine's security, preventing aggression against Ukraine from happening again, Ukraine's prosperity, and how to rebuild Ukraine. And we are grateful for the efforts of the United States and their team in helping us. The United States hears us, helps us, stands by our side, and we are grateful for everything that has been done so far. And we look forward to a successful and productive meeting today. And
do you believe that peace should be achieved at any cost? And do you believe that this stage of negotiations will lead us to a ceasefire? Share your thoughts in the comments below this video on YouTube, and also make sure you've liked and subscribed to our channel. I will now continue with the TSN broadcast. Ukraine has coordinated its sanctions with the United States and increased pressure on Russia. President Zelensky has signed 2 decrees. The first imposes sanctions on 26 Russian companies from the energy sector, including Rosneft and Lukoil's subsidiaries. The second decree imposes restrictions on 36 individuals and 13 companies connected to the production and use of Russian drones, including developers of combat and reconnaissance UAVs and FPV drones. Russian so-called charitable foundations and volunteer movements that actually support military UAVs have also come under sanctions, as well as mobile operators that provide Shaheds with SIM cards. From ambassador to presidential advisor, Oksana Markarova has received a position with Zelensky. The head of state announced this on his Telegram channel. The president appointed the former Ukrainian ambassador to the United States as his advisor on reconstruction and investment issues. So, Oksana Markarova will be consulting on improving the business climate, financial stability, attracting investment, and planning reconstruction together with strategic partners. Zelensky also emphasized that rebuilding after military actions and restoring normal economic development is the main shared goal for all state institutions and businesses. They wanted to present wishful thinking as reality. In Vovchansk, Russian occupiers tried to raise their tricolor flag on a building to film a propaganda video, but our soldiers spotted them in time. As a result, one invader was eliminated by a drone and another by infantry. Ukrainian defenders also organized a successful hunt for the enemy on the border of Donetsk and Kharkiv regions. There they cleared the village of Ivanivka. They destroyed 53 invaders and took another 19 prisoners. And in these shots, you can see a captured occupier quoting a commandment of Taras Shevchenko, practically without a Russian accent, probably because he is from the occupied territories.
When I die, bury me on a grave mound in the wide steppe in my beloved land, so that the wide fields, the Dnipro, and the cliffs can be seen, and so that the roaring river can be heard.
The Russians have transferred reserves to the Pokrovsk-Mirnohrad sector of the front and have significantly increased the pressure. At the same time, Ukrainian soldiers are not allowing the invaders to fully capture either Pokrovsk or Mirnohrad. They are even carrying out local counterattacks. How Ukrainian Marines use ground robotic systems to deliver ammunition, food, and water to the front line, as well as evacuate the wounded and the bodies of fallen comrades. Watch the report by TSN correspondent Oleksandr Motorny. You will also see a QR code on the screen. This fundraiser is specifically for equipment for the company of the Kursar Unmanned Systems Battalion of the 38th Brigade of Ukrainian Marines. Your support is very much needed by our defenders.
These are Marines who weld, drill, cut, and solder. Together, they are all improving NRC ground robotic systems. Is it even possible to figure this out here? Yes, it is.
We're trying to modify it. Every machine can be modified.
We're trying to make it better.
Pavlin says that every single NRC that comes to Ukraine's 38th Marine Brigade passes through their workshop.
Not a single drone that comes to us is ready to perform tasks straight out of the box.
Are the guys there right now?
The guys are there. When you carefully look at the detailed battle map, you will clearly see the current critical condition Mirnograd is presently in right now, as it is practically and completely encircled by enemy forces. And it's precisely the logistics drones that allow us to provide supplies for the guys who are there.
In fact, ground remotely piloted platforms in the skilled hands of Ukrainian soldiers accomplish a lot on the front line. They lay mines, fire, detonate, and conduct reconnaissance. But right now, between Nokolopokrovska and Mirnohrad, the platoon commander of the NRK admits their primary task with the help of robots is to maintain the connection with the front line.
Mainly it's logistics. Logistics is something without which, quite frankly, we probably wouldn't be able to effectively hold together this entire Pokrovsk-Mirnohrad agglomeration, which is a significant and vital urban area.
Right now, this is a drone that has to go directly to Mirnohrad.
Yes, it went in the direction of Mirnohrad.
Who is the main one, and you? When Bas, the commander of the ground robotic systems company of the 38th Brigade, says, while another NRC heads off toward Mirnohrad at dusk, that the main thing is to reach the required point. He knows exactly what makes that task difficult. It's not even about the drone's ability to get through, but rather that it looks like a joint forces operation, because we don't just go for no reason. We go with inspections, with cover, clearing out those areas that are the most difficult to pass through. We have to pass through places that are hard to get through because they're controlled by the enemy. With the controller in his hands, in front of a monitor showing a black and white image without getting up from his seat, Kok will spend the next, well, only God knows how many hours in a row. He has to deliver a critically important cargo to the position for tonight's operation. I try to get the guys everything they need myself, so they don't have to. Fuel, ammo, water, food supplies. It's not just mud every time. New craters from shells or trees knocked down by explosions along with destroyed structures make it hard to successfully complete the mission. Are they hunting the NRK? Absolutely, absolutely. That's logistics. We target the enemy's logistics, and they do the same to us. He can get around obstacles and make it out of the deep autumn mud near Mirnohrad. However, when his NRK gets targeted by an enemy FPV, the mission turns into a race. If one of them gets hit, then all the Mavics and Zvinats immediately swarm in. He directs ground robots toward the front line and brings the NRK back from there to the rear, sometimes with wounded comrades and sometimes with the bodies of fallen Ukrainian soldiers, for over a year now. It seems Kok has had to squeeze every last bit of capability out of the drone. There were 3 strikes in the field. The first one was on the road. We were heading out to Bordanu, and they already hit us in Shevchenko. near the tree line. It was moving straight along our route. And how did you realize it was after you? Our Mavic escort picked it up, and we saw it was coming in for a strike. So we started to maneuver. That time, despite some complications, the Marines of the 38th managed to evacuate the drone along with the body of their fallen comrade to the rear. But in reality, Ukrainian ground robots operate in the Pokrovsk and Mirnohrad area in very different ways. Sometimes a complex drone that we meticulously spend an entire week working on might only last a mere hour, perhaps 2 or even 3, and then that's completely it. Other times, these resilient machines can last a full month or even 2 months. To make the robots serve longer, carry out more complex missions, and ultimately save the lives of their fellow Marines, the workshop of the 38th has built ones like Duga. At 57, he joined the Marines without a military draft notice and took up what he had done all his life. And what he does best, though now with an adjustment, for war.
We don't think about the end of the war. We think about how to be as useful as possible so that our guys on the front line are less exposed to FPV drone strikes. From the Pokrovsk-Mirnohrad sector of the front, still in Donetsk region, Oleksandr Motorny, Alexander Shian, and Serhiy Shportilov, TSN 1+1.
And now today's data on enemy losses from the General Staff. In the last 24 hours, Russian occupiers have lost another 1,160 soldiers killed and wounded. Since the beginning of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the Russian army has decreased by 1,172,860 soldiers. Our defenders have also destroyed a significant amount of enemy equipment. In the fighting, more than 11,000 tanks and over 23,000 armored combat vehicles have been destroyed, as well as more than 34,500 enemy artillery systems, over 1,500 multiple launch rocket systems, 1,253 air defense systems, more than 85,000 tactical-level drones, and over 4,000 cruise missiles have been neutralized. To date, 430 Russian aircraft and 347 helicopters have been shot down. At sea, 28 ships and boats and 1 submarine have been neutralized. A fiery party for the occupiers. Good drones visited the temporarily occupied Donetsk region by the Russians last night. Because of the raid, they even had to declare an air raid alert there. According to reports on social media, there were explosions in Debaltsev and Avdiivka in particular, where key railway junctions important for logistics came under attack. Residents of Russia's Krasnodar and Anapa couldn't sleep either. Local residents reported powerful explosions that made the walls shake. According to representatives of the Russian authorities, drones also attacked the Slavyansk oil refinery. And here is a video of the occupiers' electric locomotive being blown up in Bryansk. Agents of the partisan movement Atezh disrupted the schedule of trains that were supposed to deliver ammunition, equipment, and fuel for the offensive against our Sumy region. Kazakhstan and Turkey are outraged by Ukraine's strikes on Russian targets in the Black Sea. The countries expressed their protest and emphasized that this is already the 3rd such attack. Turkey states that strikes on tankers in its economic zone create risks for shipping and security. The day before, Ukraine's defense forces struck an oil terminal in Novorossiysk and the sanctioned tankers Cairo and Virat, which are part of the shadow fleet of the aggressor country. They carried this out using underwater drones. The first tanker exploded in the Bosphorus. Officially, the vessel sails under the flag of the African country of Gambia. It was heading to the port of Novorossiysk when the explosion occurred. Turkish rescuers evacuated 25 crew members. The Coast Guard also worked at the scene of the incident. According to reports, the tanker may sink. Meanwhile, a fire broke out on another oil tanker near the coast of Turkey. A shooting at a children's birthday party in the United States. 4 people were killed and another 14 were injured. Among the victims of the shooting are both adults and children. This happened in the city of Stockton, California. Exactly what happened is still unknown. Preliminary reports say that in the banquet hall of one of the shopping centers where the celebration was taking place, an unknown person opened fire on the guests and fled. Law enforcement is working to determine who he is and why he did it. It is assumed that this attack was premeditated. 3 arsonists were detained in Chernihiv. The men were hired to set fire to restaurants and private houses. They are suspected of being responsible for 3 fires at well-known establishments in the city. 2 of the detainees are from Odessa region and the other is from Kryvyi Rih. They planned their crimes carefully, conducted reconnaissance of the area, purchased fuel and lubricants, and made Molotov cocktails from them. The police found evidence of the preparation of incendiary mixtures. The suspects are currently in a detention center. They face up to 10 years in prison. A month of searching, and finally, luck. In Kamensk, Dnipropetrovsk region, they managed to find two 13-year-old twins who had left home back on October 30th. Law enforcement officers involved the Antares search and rescue team in the operation. 8 volunteers with dogs combed through kilometers of territory. And suddenly, near one of the narrow wells, a dog signaled. The dog handlers no longer expected to find anyone alive there, but they saw the teenagers they had been searching for. As it turned out, for a month, the brothers had been moving through populated areas and hiding from law enforcement. Right now, the boys are being examined by doctors, and juvenile police officers are trying to find out why they ran away from home. And among these difficult news stories, there are also sensitive and kind ones. Next is one of them. In the capital, a wedding was held between Nataliya, a Ukrainian woman, and Yuri, an Italian. The man came to Ukraine to serve as a volunteer 3 years ago. During this time, he has already learned the language, made friends, and of course found love. So how did the stars align for the newlyweds to meet each other? And who is the Cupid that introduced them? TSN correspondent Olena Hushchyk visited the family.
This story exists thanks to a twist of fate.
It was a shock for me. I couldn't imagine it.
Determination and a spark.
I melted in front of the TV and was very afraid to miss the part with the names.
And of course, love that doesn't care about time or borders.
So then you're from Venezia, is that right? And what about me?
You're Italian.
That's how we met. In Nataliya and Yuri's kitchen. Just a few days after the wedding, they show us how their story began.
This is the photo where I first saw him on air.
Yuri, congratulations.
Congratulations. You're welcome. As I was diligently making my morning coffee, I unexpectedly caught a fleeting glimpse of an incredibly striking and remarkably attractive man just out of the corner of my eye. My very first immediate thought was, I genuinely want to approach him and politely ask what such a truly handsome, exceptionally young, and clearly healthy man, an Italian no less, could possibly be doing here, fighting in the ongoing war in Ukraine. It was a perplexing and deeply intriguing sight, prompting many questions in my mind.
Yuri came from Italy 3 years ago. He fought in the Carpathian Sich, the International Legion, and the Ternopil Battalion. In September, he signed his 5th contract with the armed forces of Ukraine. He began sharing his experience as a volunteer in Ukraine on social media, at first in Italian and later more and more often in Ukrainian.
I was advised to record him for an interview. I said to him, Yuri, why don't you come to the marathon and share your personal experience with the Ukrainian audience? I brought him as a guest to the studio and sat there translating the entire broadcast. People often don't understand why I'm here, but I always answer that I'm here to help Ukraine.
I found him on Facebook and simply wrote him a thank you message.
Out of all the messages on social media, Yuri paid attention to this one because Nataliya also left her phone number and added that if he needed help, she would be there. Feel free to reach out.
We corresponded by phone. She helped me a lot as a volunteer. And later we started talking even longer and about everything under the sun. I told her about my worries and problems, and she helped me.
A year of correspondence passed before our first video call this spring.
I was sure we wouldn't understand each other. For sure, I don't know Tengizian or anything like that. I was amazed that when we called each other, we understood each other perfectly.
After that meeting, there were more magnets on the fridge.
Here I was in Kramatorsk. That was our very first delicious Easter cake. It was a special cake.
Easter. This is us in Venice. That's Vitalia. I really love this photo. I like it a lot.
Time passes, time goes by, and suddenly he writes to me. Katya, I'm inviting you to the wedding. I said, oh, I missed everything. I think someone is getting married today. Awesome.
1+1 host Katerina Nesterenko admits that at first she didn't even realize why she was invited to the wedding. She was friends with Yuri, mostly talked about military topics, and they never discussed their personal lives.
The bride takes the microphone and says, I would like to tell you the story of our love. One day, I saw him on television. And at that moment, I realized it was the very broadcast when I brought him to the studio. And so This story has grown into the creation of a new Ukrainian-Italian family.
An international wedding with a Ukrainian korovai and Italian songs. We don't really understand each other very well, so we can't even argue.
It was a bit difficult to talk, but Natalka understood everything.
She just, at that very precise moment, was truly about to commence.
Loves you. She loves you. You love him, don't you? Yes, I love him very much.
It's not the same as I love you. It's a bit more than that. It's like, I will love you until the end of my life.
Yuri is still learning Ukrainian, but jokes that Italian is still a challenge for Nataliya. Are you learning Italian now?
That's a tough question.
Nope. So declarations of love are often heard in the house and mostly in Ukrainian. Right now he has a song that he really loves, and lately he keeps singing it to me. What is it, Yuri?
Oh, a long, drawn-out sound echoing in the air.
Ah, are you there, Slava Kaka?
That's why they called me Cupid. I said it's the Cupid Marathon. And maybe I contributed a little to this story.
Olena Hushchyk, Oleksandr Lifanov, Volodymyr Perekonsky, TSN 1+1.
We're expecting an abnormally warm December. In the coming weeks, no snow or frosts are forecasted across Ukraine. Winter will begin with mostly warm and comfortable weather, promises meteorologist Nataliya Didenko. Rain is more likely in the south, center, and west. Light precipitation is also possible in the capital. Daytime temperatures will be between +4 and +7 degrees Celsius. There will be light frost at night from 0 to -2 degrees. In the south, it will be as warm as 12 degrees Celsius. Starting December 5th, colder weather is possible in the north and east, down to -7 degrees. Meanwhile, in the western regions, thermometers will show 7 degrees above zero. And the weather will remain this contrasting throughout all of December. We're used to contrast, but warmth is especially needed in these challenging times. So your subscription and likes can help warm and support the TSN team. And don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss our live broadcasts. The next one is already tomorrow. Let's come together, believe in better days, and believe in Ukraine.